Excited to talk some Woodbine racing with my good friend Matt DeSantis. You know Matt from Trust the Profits and from social media at Fail to Menace on Twitter. Does a fantastic job with capping the cards, with the Win Play show, with all sorts of great analysis. He's been doing really good stuff with the Assiniboia Downs recently. Now Maddie's going to help me out with a really good card this weekend, Matt. I know you do so much work in Canada. I figured I had to have you help me out with the racing up at Woodbine. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. I just stay up in the Great White North. We just go from, Winnipeg. We can make a little way over. But yeah, no, it's going to be great. And you're right. Just a wonderful card. Great stakes menu. I feel like just very competitive races, full fields. It's just couldn't ask for a better setup.
Yeah, 11 races, 5 graded stakes races, $100,000 guaranteed early pick 5. It is a massive day out there at Woodbine. Any more information, any more details you need, you can go to woodbine.com. We are going to dive in to the daily racing form past performances, and it's actually a pretty cool time period right now if you're a fan of the DRF past performances and any of the DRF tools and features, Matt. They have a big sale that started today. It goes all the way through Tuesday, 4th of July sale. It's up to 50% off. And what's cool about the sales that they have and the products that they feature, you can purchase a bunch of them when they have a sale, and then you have those credits stacked up so you can use them later. So you save now, and then later when like Del Mar and Saratoga comes up, and you're probably playing races like every day at a lot of those tracks in the summer, and maybe you need the clocker reports. Right?
Yeah.
Because the baby races. Maybe you're someone who's watching this, you play Woodbine every day, and you know you're going to play Woodbine every single day. Purchase one of these classic or formulator PP packages because it'll save you a bunch of money. Every time you go, you already got that credit ready to rock and roll.
Absolutely. No, it's a great setup. I mean, I would be lost, I think, without DRF Formulator. And it is one of the most helpful handicapping tools I think you can possibly find. And so when they run these sorts of deals, it's just such a wonderful way to get people connected to the best information in the industry, I think.
And we're going to dive on in and show you how we use these daily racing form past performances to try to navigate ourselves to a winner here and there. 5 graded stakes races. They're going to go in races 5, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And we're also going to see some big name horses in here. We're going to see Moira, who is the 2022 Canadian Horse of the Year. We're going to see Wonder Wheel, who was the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies winner last year. So some really, really star-studded names on the card, as well as big fields. Not one of the 11 races has a field under 8.
You can't ask for much more than that.
Honestly, like what else do you want? You have big fields, you have big names, and you have big pools. $100,000 in the early pick 5. You can play a lot of these wagers on the 20-cent based wager as well. So dive on in this weekend up at Woodbine. It's a good time on the calendar too for them to get a nice little spotlight this weekend. Let's kick things off, Maddie, in race number 5. It's the Grade 3 Marine Stakes. We're going to be on the synthetic surface here, and sort of from a discussing standpoint, the horse to beat is probably the number 5 Turf King, who's installed as 2-1 on the morning line as the morning line favorite for Chad Brown. He ships in from Monmouth Park. He won his first 2 starts, and then he went over to Monmouth. He finished 3rd in the Jersey Derby, so he'll be pretty tough in here. Right next door, Twin City. He's a multiple winner. He hasn't done a whole lot wrong in his career. You know, they'll be probably the horses to beat. But how did you sort of see this race playing out, and who are some of the horses on your radar?
Yeah, it's interesting because I was willing to try to get past the top 2.
I agree completely.
So so Turf King, to me, whenever Chad Brown ships a horse to Monmouth, that's always a little bit of a maybe Chad doesn't think, maybe this
quite
is more
the
B-level horse, and still a great horse, but it just maybe not his upper echelon. And then going to Woodbine is a very unusual move for him on the synthetic. I know this horse broke its maiden on the synthetic Gulfstream, but still, it made me want to go, I mean, Chad Brown's only winning at 15% at Woodbine over the last 5 years, 5 for 33. So it's not overwhelming. It's not like this is Chad at Belmont. Twin City, same sort of thing. That last time out, the speed figure really popped, but was it because it was a cutback to 7 furlongs? Did the horse mature from 2 to 3? I don't know. And so as a result, because if you look at all those other speed figures, they're rather pedestrian. Yep. And so I'm willing to try to get past those 2. So the horse that I was a little bit interested in is the number 7.
That's my play.
Is that your play? Yeah. So there's two of them who I like here. And so Midnight Rising, the 7 is one of them. 8-1 for Jordan Blair with Raylu aboard. This is the one who I just started off really solid at Turfway Park on the synthetic and popped a really nice figure on debut. And is a little bit of a closer, but it has tactical enough speed that it can sit closer to the pace. Then stepped immediately up to a listed stakes race and finished fourth in a pretty good field with a horse like Rarefied Flair, who I know you're a big fan of, and that was also an effort off Lasix. Then it goes back on Lasix, but goes to the turf. And I just think this horse might be better as an all-weather surface horse. And at 8-1 in the morning line, you're getting significantly better value. I think Raylu is going to be aggressive with this horse and make sure this horse is at least positioned mid-pack and doesn't maybe have quite as much to do coming for home. But that was one I definitely wanted to start with in talking about this race.
I'm pretty sure we talked about this horse when he ran on the April 28th race, coming off those first two synthetics at Keeneland when he ran third that day. Because that March 25th race that you were talking about, that was a good race. He just moved a little early and a little bit wide. He was sitting about fifth or sixth. He was about three lengths off of it. He made a big 4-wide move and he opened up 2 lengths and he just moved a little bit early. And so he kind of hung a little bit and horses from the back picked him off. Then at Keeneland on that April the 28th race, it was very good. He had a slow start. He was 10th. He was inside and he was just completely blocked. He started to roll late. He had to angle out. And he got up for third. It was a really good effort. He was not that far behind Turf King that day. Last time out, the race at Indy, honestly, the 3 horses that ran 1, 2, 3 in here, they would be favored in this race.
It's funny because Wadsworth, I believe, is favored in the Wise Dan this weekend at Ellis Park.
At Ellis Park, a stakes race there.
And Gigante's 4-1 in that race as well.
Yeah. So they're both legitimate. And Dude in Colorado is a horse who we've seen in graded stakes races is grade 3 placed. So any one of those 3 horses in that race, had they been in here, they would be really, really tough to beat. So I'm not going to hold that race against him all that much when I'm comparing it here. Agree with what you said. He also just might be a little bit better on the synthetic. I love that Raylu jumps aboard with him. He feels like the price should be right. Like lots of things point me to him running a really good race in here.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. The other horse that I want to give a shout out to, and maybe this is more of an underneath play if you're playing vertical exotics, is actually the horse on the rail, One Bay Hemingway at 12-1. This horse has a ton of speed. And what's interesting is this horse, finished second in the Grey Cup last year. And had a really nice effort that day and held on for second place. This horse has got the inside rail. It should have the speed to be able to get out on the lead and be able to set the tempo the way that he wants. There's other speed in this race, but it's not overwhelming. And I mean, the 4 horse is probably the next fastest horse in the field, but I could see the 1 getting up on the front end and being able to kind of dictate terms a little bit. There are some nice races this horse has in his back pocket, and it has demonstrated the ability it can stretch out before. So, at a big price, a horse that is 7 for 8 in the money in its career, I'm going to probably use in some way underneath just because you're at 12-1 and there's plenty of other horses that are going to take money. I think you're probably going to get close to that come post time.
The 4 is kind of a fun name. I think it's Kaukoki Poo. And I think it's sort of translated into wanderlust. I've kind of gone down like a rabbit hole with this word before because I've looked this horse up and it doesn't really have a meaning in English. It's one of those words that it doesn't have a direct meaning.
Right.
But it's fun to hear Robert Geller say this name when he's calling the races there.
That's why I just stuck to the number 4 horse. That's why I was like, I'm just not even gonna try.
I thought he's a very honest horse to use underneath. He's one of those light bulb horses, right? That you see knocking on the door. He'd really not run any bad races in his entire career. He just hadn't ever won. And then all of a sudden he puts it together. Not only does he put it together, when he does, he wins by 9 lengths. Yeah. Right. It was like, oh, this was what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to just keep going in front, and then he comes right back. And it was a race that he wouldn't have won earlier on in his career last time out because he was behind horses in trouble, kind of stuck inside a little bit. And he just sort of waited. and he angled out 3 wide, like, super professionally. I think he might
Yeah,
just be kind of growing up a little bit,
I agree.
maturing a little bit here too. So
Yeah.
he's a fun one to use. Definitely a fun one to say in like what's the first of 5 really contentious graded stakes races, like especially
Yeah.
if you are like you and I, who we don't feel like these 2 favorites in this race are overwhelming in here.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I think would it shock me if either of them won? No,
No,
but I'm willing to try to beat them because I don't
at
see them as such a huge favorite compared to what we see in the rest of this field.
yeah, at 8-5 and 5-2, what they'll probably be,
Probably, yeah.
we'll
Yeah.
go elsewhere in
Yeah.
here. Midnight Rising, the one that we both land on. Matt gives a little look to the inside runner, One Bay Hemingway. Fan of the Sun Also Rises. Is that one for you?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Look at
No,
me.
I do
There we
like
go.
I've actually I actually went to Hemingway's home in Key West.
Oh, there we go.
That was a lot of fun.
There we
So, and
go.
there's a really if people ever go there, there's a great story about the englassed penny that is right by the pool of there, and it's all about a fight between Hemingway and his then wife, and then the wife was rather petty and did something very funny with
I'm
that.
gonna look
So,
cool at a party one day because of you. Because I'm gonna mention that. I'm gonna reverberate what you just told me while we're sitting around having a drink, and someone's gonna look at me and like stroke their chin, very like, look at this guy over here. And I'm gonna think and give you a little nod to the gods, to Maddie, right there on that one.
I
As
love it.
we move along to the next graded stakes race. So there will be 4 in a row that start in race
Mhm.
number 7, which kicks off your late pick 5. So you'll have graded stakes race, graded stakes race, graded stakes race, graded stakes race. The Celine kicks them off. The Celine is where we will see Wonder Wheel, who is 6-5 on the morning line. Wonder Wheel won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies last year. Wonder Wheel is a multiple grade 1 winner. She started the year fine, right? In the
Yeah.
Suncoast, it was
Yeah.
her speed figure was the best speed figure, co-best speed figure she'd ever run, the same that she ran in winning the Breeders' Cup last year.
Yep.
And she lost to a big long shot, and it didn't seem like it was anything to worry about because it was just her first start. You figured she'll be a little bit tighter, and she's got bigger fish to fry down the line, right? They want to peak
Yeah.
in the Oaks. Unfortunately, then in the Ashland, she didn't really take the step forward like we were hoping. I
Yeah.
think some people thought getting back to Churchill, a track that she'd run really well over, she would be able to progress again. And then she didn't.
Yeah.
Now she comes up and she'll try the synthetic for the first time. She's been working here at Woodbine for a while, and she'll get Lasix for the first time. What's nice is
Mhm.
as a 3-year-old filly, she has some spots she could run in. The Woodbine Oaks and the King's Plate
Yeah.
are very logical spots for her if she runs well and seems to like this surface. So, from a talking standpoint, from everything, she's definitely one of the more notable horses running on the card on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. And she's a filly who, the problem is it kind of goes back to the last race, which is she's 6-5 in the morning line. I don't even know if we'll end up getting that.
I know.
And she just feels like a horse that I kind of need to see her run well again
I know.
before I use her. And
I agree.
again, could she win? Absolutely. And you're right about, where her progression could be this year if she stays up at Woodbine. But I have a hard time taking a horse at that short of a price who's turned
Me
in
too.
2 really poor performances the last 2 times out.
And
So, yeah.
Safety Joseph seems to have a strong hand in this
Mhm, he
race,
does.
right?
Yeah.
Like he has a couple in here that may be able to give him different, kind of complement each other's running styles, come
Mhm.
at it from totally different ways. And what I like about some of them is they either have synthetic experience, either at
Mhm.
Gulfstream or even a horse like the number 3, who I'll mention,
Yeah.
Honor D Lady, who I think is like a very logical alternative if you're looking to play against Wonder
Yeah.
Wheel, because what's nice about her, last year she came up to Woodbine already and ran well here. So she
Mhm.
already has come up, done this trip, and run well over this course. And then this year, her first start of the year, she wins a stakes race. And then most recently, we can watch this race too.
Yeah.
It's a little deceiving. I think she ran kind of better than it may look on paper. So as we look at the race, she's the number 4 here, Matt. But
Mhm.
Safety has Honor Delady. He also has Be My Sunshine, and Blind Spot. And Blind Spot's probably the speed.
Yeah.
Honor Delady might be kind of the stalking one in the middle.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
Be My Sunshine might be the one coming at it from the back, right? So
Yep.
the 4 didn't break all that bad in here, but then all of a sudden just wasn't really persevered with and ends up kind of last down on the inside
Yep.
in that bad spot.
Ugh.
And it's just, so she was, and the winner of the race was Ocean Club, who is going wide, who is out front cruising right here.
Yep.
So you can just see where the 4 is and the way the race shapes up. But talk to us a little bit about some of the Joseph runners in here, Maddie.
Yeah, so I liked Honor Delady a lot as well, and at 7-2, I think you're getting an honest price. And yeah, well, I thought, well, the nice part is if she sits the trip she did 2 back, actually, I think that's the perfect trip, is to sit that stalking trip and then not have to make up nearly as much ground. She doesn't need to be trying to come from last place like she did here, especially when they're going in a merry-go-round up front in terms of Ocean Club just taking them gate to wire. So I think the fact that she's got good tactical speed and still has good late kick as well, I think makes her, very aggressive. Obviously, Zayas is, Safi's number 1 jockey, and so he comes up there to ride her. And, I just think she makes a ton of sense at 7-2. And like you said, that race last year, the Mazarine, she came up here and ran well on Lasix, and we should mention that's the only other time the horse has ever had Lasix. And now you see her here coming down the stretch. I mean, she's making up ground. She's trying, that's for sure.
She just didn't get a chance until it was too late here. So I thought it was a good effort from Honor Delady. She's going to duck down here. She's not far out of second when it's all said and done, just chasing a lone speed wire-to-wire winner. Now she'll make the 3rd start off the long layoff, 3rd start of her form cycle. Just feels like she's coming into this race well. She fits really well. She could get the type of trip we're hoping for. I kind of make her my top selection in here. Yep. And like I look at a few of the others that I think are kind of intriguing. Like I even thought the 1, 45-70, you pull the old the angle, the toss 2 angle, right, with her, where you toss the race right before the long layoff, and then you toss the race right after the long layoff. And if a lot of the other form looks good, well, you can understand that she might just have had something go wrong. And that's why she went to the bench for a while. And when she came back, she might have just needed a start for her, to get back towards her best level. Can she take one more step forward? She's not far off competing with the rest of these on speed figures.
Yeah, and she's gonna, from the inside rail, she's got good positional speed where she shouldn't get shuffled back too far. What I like about her is that if you look, she's always been well meant. I mean, they started off in a big time maiden special weight race. They've placed her in a stakes race before she ever even broke her maiden. She's always given honest effort. She finally gets that victory. And then, like you said, she runs a bad one in December. That coincides with the season shutting down anyway. So they shut her down. They bring her back. I think you can easily toss those 2 efforts. And if you do that, she makes a lot of sense as a horse that should be up there close to the lead as well, and sitting maybe a stalking inside pocket trip. And, I think at the very least, that horse should not be 20-1. I like that horse a lot more than 20-1, and you should be including that horse, I think, in some exotics. I will say the other horse, I think Safi's other horse, Blind Spot, has a legit chance in the spot as well.
The speed of them too, right? If anyone can maybe get out front or be right up there with the top groups. This is a filly who's kept company with some nice horses, right? She comes out of that Here Comes the Bride with Dance Macabre, Propilio, and Cairo Consort. All of them really, really quality runners. Last time out on the synthetic on the synthetic sprinting up here at Woodbine. So sort of got the Woodbine prep too, which is nice. Like I always like when horses have that local spin.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's been working out obviously for the last several months up at Woodbine. And listen, is 2 for 2 on synthetic, and has, never, I mean, I know she was disqualified last time.
Cross the wire first, but absolutely.
Cross wire first, essentially. The last 2 times on the synthetic. So, there's not a lot that she's done wrong. I mean, she may have to take another step forward a little bit from a speed figure standpoint, but I think there's every reason to expect that she could absolutely do that. And so I think Safi is kind of loaded for bear in this race, and he's got a couple of nice options here. But I'm going to be playing against Wonder Wheel in this spot for sure.
Yeah, I think that's the play in here. And like we were talking about, he has them from a pace and sort of tactics standpoint.
I
Like
always like that. Yeah.
look like perfectly well measured. One of them, they just don't seem like they're going to be hurting each other doing what they want to do naturally, right? That's what's always hard if you're a trainer or an owner and you have two really good speed horses and they both fit well in a spot. What do you
Yeah.
want to do, right? Because they're
Yeah.
both going to hinder each other's chances. But
Mm-hmm.
in a race like this, it's nice because you just tell everybody to go out there and you ride your race. You sit back, you try to sit middle and get the best trip, and you go to the
Yeah.
lead. And
And,
hey,
and the thing is, all three of them are good horses, and it's not as if you're putting one in just to help the other one out.
no,
It's not like Blind Spot's a rabbit. Blind
nope,
Spot could legitimately win this race, and
yep.
it has every right to win this race. So I like it when you see that, when you're like, these are three really good horses that just happen to have three different running styles that kind of complement each other, but they all have a legitimate chance to win. So
And the leading rider, perennial leading rider up there, Kimura, lands on the 5. Be My
right,
Sunshine.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
then it's not as if she's done much wrong, but we're just sort of talking about she is not quite as quick. So she
yeah,
might be a horse who could be better like this and better moving forward in
yeah,
bigger fields, in tougher races where there's honest pace in those races for her to run
yeah,
at.
yeah,
Because one of the races she loses to a horse named Well Into, and Well Into is just really quick.
yeah,
So she just has no chance in that type of a race,
yeah,
trying to chase a lone speed horse like that. So it does look like the Joseph ones are really strong in here. And if you're playing any sort of late exotics, maybe you can start some of them here with the pick 5. You'll be able to get a good idea. If one of these horses gets forgotten about price wise, maybe you even go a little bit more that way. Because I agree
absolutely,
with you. I have a feeling Wonder Wheel is going to get hit quite hard
yeah,
here. The Cassie
yeah.
horse with the credentials, everybody knows the name.
Exactly. Patrick Husbands is up on the mount. I mean, it's like for people who don't play Woodbine often, I mean, that's like Pletcher and Ortiz or something like that, where you're
Yeah.
like, well, that's going to get bet down.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Let's move along to race number 8. This one is the Grade 2 Highlander 6 furlong turf sprint. What a cool race this one is.
Yeah.
It is a big field. We'll go right to the outside for the horse who's your 5-2 morning line favorite. He can fly, one
Hmm.
timer. And honestly, you go through his whole career, you eliminate the mile in a 16th race,
Yeah.
which they just took a flyer there, see if he
Yeah.
could go along on the dirt, see what they had. Didn't want to do it. Immediately cut him back and sprinting on the grass. He wins a Grade 2. He's off for the rest of 2022, shows back up with a prep, easy prep at Belterra. He's the heavy favorite. It's just to get him some fitness because this is the plan. They didn't want him to have something taxing, I'm sure, before
Yeah.
coming to run here at Woodbine. And for Larry Ravelli, who's had some unfortunate news this week,
Yeah.
one timer is a horse who's very fast, and they'll have to at least catch in here to beat.
Absolutely. No, I mean, one timer, very good horse. And I do find myself rooting for the horse because of the week that Larry had with 2 fills and
Yep.
everything there. So I do, from that, just a fan standpoint, I find myself rooting for the horse. I will say, and this is always, I think, a challenge when you handicap sprint races. There's a lot of speed in this race, as you would expect in a sprint race. But when there's this much speed, you do wonder, even for a horse sitting on the outside who can kind of judge where he might want to slot in. I did find myself kind of looking at a few alternatives to
Oh
the
yeah,
10
I agree.
in this spot as well. And one of
6
the
might be a little like this 6 furlongs on this turf course, which is a
yeah,
big turf course.
it is big slide
He's
sweeping. Yeah,
he's got the 6.5 at Kentucky. I'm not saying he can't get it. That
yeah.
might be a little beyond what he wants, like his scope. He might be more of a 5.5er.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it is the horse that I'm interested in is kind of an interesting horse. It's the number 4, Macedo,
Nice. Yeah.
who's 5-1. And this is
Yeah.
another Cassie horse with Patrick Husbands aboard. This is a horse that's coming back from over a year layoff and just ran them off their feet last time at 5 furlongs at Woodbine. And just, but can sit behind that early pace, but has tremendous late pace speed. This was a horse
And
that came out of Donacha O'Brien's barn, Aiden, and so it is a really good horse. And I don't know. This one feels like it could be a really sneaky price.
this is a horse who's multiple group stakes plays. So if, like, you go through his
Yep.
entire career, his races overseas were very good. He was
Go
fourth.
Bears go. He's a
Like,
really good horse.
well, he was fourth in the
Berkshire
field of
Shadow.
17 at Royal Ascot. back in 2021, just to give you an idea. He was only beaten a length and 3/4 that day. So he comes to Kentucky and he's off for a few months. He shows up and he just doesn't really fire. And he's off all the way to June. He shows up off a long layoff. He wins. Then he's off for a whole year. And like, what's crazy is this horse has grown up so much and we really haven't been able to see it, because what we've only really seen from him early in his career, he was 2. And now this is the second half of his 4-year-old season. He's like such a different horse now. The only thing that scares me in it, when I watch the race, it doesn't scare me. It's just the quick turnaround. It's coming back in 2 weeks because he had a year off. He obviously has some physical issues, right? Because he's had a lot of time off in between some of his starts. He's missed time, but he's the number 1 in this race we're watching. It doesn't look, it's like looks like it takes a whole lot out of him. That's why visually I'm not all that worried. I mean, he's a little fresh here. So he was close up. Like he was even right there on the inside of Bushido, but he took back a little bit from the rail. You can see even now he wants to go. He's sort of wanting to go a little bit. And then he's getting stuck in a kind of what looks like a bad spot down on the inside. You're just going to have to be at the mercy of the group. You're just waiting because you can't angle to the outside because now you're pinned in by the 3. So you're just sort of waiting for room. And I thought this was, he gets a perfect spot like this and he angles around. But that's sort of why maybe we don't mind playing him back again quickly, right? How much did he have to do in here? Did this take all that much out of him?
Yeah. No, I mean, he put on the burst and, I don't think he ever felt the whip and, and now, Husbands is standing up in the stirrups. So, and the other thing is it's a Mark Casse horse. Mark Casse doesn't bring horses back if they're not sound and if they're not ready to do it. I mean, he always cares about horses' health. I mean, he's has a reputation as a very, very good trainer.
And look at one of the blind, just blindly looking at one of his statistics here. Yeah, second off the bench over that long layoff. Yeah, he has a positive ROI with this move. Meaning he does it well. He knows where these horses should be spotted quite often on a big sample size. So, I mean, he's a must use to me in any late exotics. I couldn't not use him. The only thing that worried me was just the quick turnaround. But man, he's a nice horse. He doesn't done almost anything wrong in his whole career. It all makes sense to him for me with him. He and the 3 were my top 2 in this race. Old Chestnut and Macedo. What's interesting about Old Chestnut is he had previously run on the grass and had some races that were solid. He was in the Highlander a couple years ago where he was 7th and maybe a cut below. And now, since moving into the new barn, his last 2 races on the synthetic have been really good. And I don't know if it's just a synthetic thing because prior to that, he was a better turf horse. Is it just an improvement thing? Maybe he's just a little bit better now for this new barn. What's really interesting, too, is the horse that he lost to in just from a class standpoint in the Jacques Cartier last time out is Anarchist. He went over and he had a sneaky good effort in the True North. He got stopped and had some trouble. I think he might have won that race. I honestly do think he may have been able to beat Elite Power that day because Elite Power may not have been completely cranked up in his first start. And he got a 99 Beyer speed figure, and Old Chestnut ran really well in that spot that day. He loves this Woodbine turf course. This is where he's run some of his best races. Lots of 3s and 4s for me in here. One other dimension, Matt, because I've just chased him a few times, and I can't let him get away from me, is Oceanic.
I knew you'd bring this horse up.
You knew,
we both have chased this horse a few times.
And honestly, it's another one where he runs these bang up races back to back, the ones that jump off the page, right? And then since then, he's chasing Lone Speed Caravel, Lone Speed Caravel, Lone Speed No Balls. Then on May the 23rd, he gets into a little softer spot at Indy. He takes a really bad step
Yeah.
Like early in the race, he loses all momentum. He loses about 2 to 3 lengths. He tips out and he comes running. So now all of a sudden, 4 races in a row, he's chasing lone speed winners. And then last time out, we can probably just eliminate the race because of that bad step he took. He honestly would have been much closer and in that race if that doesn't happen to him. He would fit with this group with one of his better efforts, no doubt. It's just,
Absolutely.
are we going to get that from him? But maybe it'll be built into the price. Raylu jumps aboard. I'm playing pick 4s or pick 5s. He's another one, especially if I'm spreading out and not keying in on one timer. He's got to be on my tickets.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, yes, everything you said is right. This is a horse we both have chased a few times. We both like quite a bit. This horse ran. I mean, if this horse runs anywhere near what it did at the Shakertown, it's going to win. And because that was just a ridiculously good effort that day, and just came up, short and somehow missed the board too. But the other horse that I will give a little bit of a shout to that I'm a little interested in is the number 7 Super Dormy.
Yeah, I was gonna say both the 7 and the 8, even right next door to each other.
Yeah.
Like neither one of these horses would be absurd or would be off.
Yeah. And Super Dormy is a horse that is 2 for 2 over the Woodbine turf. And so, clearly likes this turf course, and one last time out, the speed figures would have to take a little bit of a step up, but there's nothing to suggest that this horse wouldn't be able to do that. And it also, it feels like this horse likes 6 furlongs specifically.
Yeah.
And so it's 2 for 2 at 6 furlongs. And I feel like they've been moving this horse around a lot. Sometimes the horse runs a mile and a 16th, 5. It's just all over the place. And it's like, when you get this horse at 6 furlongs, this horse runs really well. It actually should sit a pretty similar trip to the number 4 that we were talking about earlier, in terms of maybe right behind that early cavalcade of speed, and then maybe can angle out and make a launch late.
Yeah, it's Super Dormy is a horse who, his Gulfstream effort down here, that one was very good. The one in February.
Yeah.
And he loses to Emmanuel. He loses to Rockcrest, who we've seen come out against tough company and do very, very well. Striker's a horse who had the first start in a few months. He has some races that he could maybe get back to that are intriguing. Just a very solid betting race here. A couple that jumped out to me and Maddie initially. The 4, Macedo, was one that was definitely both on both of the radar. I thought the 3 was quite intriguing also. And the 10's a horse to beat, but
for sure,
there's feels like there's going to be enough other speed to just at least make him work and make him have to prove it at a short enough price.
Absolutely.
Let's get you race number 9 here, as we'll take a look at the grade 3 Dominion Day, 1.125 on the synthetic. This one's kind of cool, Matt. The 4 Tyson and the 6 Treason are horses who both, and Carruthers, they come out of the Eclipse last time out. Mm-hmm. They're all horses who I could make a really nice case for in here. There's a horse Barry and I played a bunch last year, Golden Glider.
I remember.
This was our horse last year, and he, if you just look at the body of the work last year when he was on the dirt facing better horses, you can eliminate a lot of those and just figure he's better on the synthetic. He wouldn't really shock me all that much. I think the horse I like the most in this spot is the 4. I think the one that I'm the most intrigued by at this price. We can watch the Eclipse because it's a key race where Tyson and Treason and Carruthers all come out of. But for Tyson, I mean, he's a 4-year-old and he's only going to be making his 4th career start. So he's obviously had some physical issues along the way. I love when horses like this are able to put a couple races together, because I really feel like we'll start to get a good foundation and we'll start to get a good idea of who they are. So the 3 key horses to watch in this race, the 4, the 7, and the 10. The 4 was Tyson, who's also the 4. The 7 was Treason, who's also going to be who's Treason, who's going to be the 6, and then Carruthers is the other. So those are the 3 we're watching from this race: 4, 7, and 10. So the key for me was that Tyson is the gray. He's in a good spot. He's just sitting in the second flight. He's in between horses, and he'll end up getting shuffled back just a little bit. And honestly, Matt, the difference in winning this race is just that is when that happens, is getting shuffled, because Treason ends up winning and he sits a really nice trip up there in third in the clear.
Yeah. And you're right. And then the 4 is kind of is off the 4. That's the trip I don't like either, which is in between on the second flight, and you're boxed in every way.
You can't go in. You're just stuck all over the place.
Yep. And you're stuck a path out at least, and you're just trapped, and you're just at the will of how the race is going to play out and whether or not a spot opens up for you. So, listen. This horse made a ton of sense for me. I think the 4 Tyson was my second choice in this race, and I think absolutely could stand to improve off of that effort. And is gone from Todd Pletcher, but Josie Carroll's barn, and Josie's great up there at Woodbine, and so
he got shuffled a little bit right here, and I think he got a little lost. He got back about 4 or 5 lengths, and that was the farthest he'd ever been back in either of his first 2 races. He'd never been headed. So now all of a sudden he's like, what's going on? And then he gets into the clear here, and they ask him for some run, and he starts to stride on nicely. This is a quality horse here. He just has
a nice stride late too.
He just got a little lost. I don't think distance will be a problem for him trying to get the additional distance here, get the 1 1/8. I think the third start back now off that long layoff, I feel like there might be a little upside with him in this one. You said you had him second. Who's the horse who you have on top in here?
I couldn't get past the favorite here. Treason just look. I mean, what he did off the bench was just so impressive. What I was like, all right. I mean, it's hard. I mean, from a speed figure standpoint, he fits, and then he's
not far off looking form wise like the 4. He's a horse who has had gaps in his career, just some physical issues. He's a 5-year-old who's only run 7 times, but now. They've kind of figured him out up at Woodbine, and those 3 races in a row are all pretty good. He's just going to be really close to the front end.
Yeah, and he's a horse that I think just kind of makes his own luck to some extent because he does have that speed. And so it's, when we sometimes get frustrated with the horse because they don't get the right trip, it's like, well, the horses that do get the right trips are the horses. I mean, sometimes it's the jockey, but sometimes it's also just, making sure that, the horses just have the natural speed. So I thought out of everybody coming out of those races, listen, I thought Treason made a lot of sense. I thought Tyson made a lot of sense. The one I was out on was actually Carruthers out of the 3.
I agree. I agree with you.
Just because I was worried about I thought there might be regression coming because this horse has kind of moved up a lot. And I was like, I feel like there's not another step for this horse to take. And I think the step this horse takes is actually maybe one that's maybe a slight step back. So, and I feel like this horse has, I will say, I mean, Martin Dexler, I should say, has gotten this horse into great condition. I mean, this was a claiming level horse. And I mean, it does have some stakes races back in the day, but I mean, this was a horse that was running in claiming 40s and optional claimer 35s and, ran a bang up second in in the Eclipse last time out. But I just feel like there's a step back coming on this one.
Of the shorter, I don't really mind Nova Soul all that much either. What's nice about him on the outside, he actually has a win at 1.25 miles in Brazil on the turf. Just so from a distance standpoint, right? We've seen him go 2 miles even, and he was third going 1.5 miles. So at 1.125 miles, which may be difficult for some horses sometime, that shouldn't be any problem for him. He's also going to be second start back. He should be able to sit a pretty nice trip. He's been up here and run at Woodbine before and didn't run all that poorly in the autumn or the valedictory last year. So yeah, he kind of fits too. That what you said about Treason, that's what it reminds me of the part in Titanic when they're sitting there and they're eating the dinner. And the guy goes, all life is a game of luck. And then Billy Zane comes in and goes, a real man makes his own luck, Dawson. And he throws him the matches right there. I wanted to say, that's reminded me because he is one of those horses that make your own luck because of his running style. He just puts him. And that's a thing that we do as handicappers sometimes. And I do this sometimes, right? We knock and we want to poke holes and knock on horses who get perfect trips the next time, right? You want to do that the next time, especially if they're over bet. You want to say, oh, they got a perfect trip. Are they going to always get that trip? Some of them work themselves into that trip all the time, right? Some horses do.
That's the thing is usually after a horse does it, if I ever hear it myself or anyone else say This horse just keeps getting perfect trips. And I'm like, well, there's probably a reason this horse keeps
Yeah.
getting perfect trips. Like this
Yeah.
horse is just, it can work out its own luck. And betting against that then becomes a little bit foolish because you're like, well, why wouldn't this horse continue to get the perfect trip? And you know, and so again, it's not to say that Treason's unbeatable in this spot, but I just think
No.
he is a horse that's going to put himself in the position to have a run there at the end, and to be in that group. But again, I could understand somebody going, I'd rather take 6-1 on Tyson than 2-1 on Treason. That makes all the sense in the world to me.
And maybe they try to even get a little more aggressive with Tyson, who got kind of caught behind last time out.
Yep.
Maybe they'll try to see if they can get a little closer early on. Golden Glider, toss in the mix in a spot or two there. And race number 9 as we move.
I'll mention one other horse just very quickly in this one. I'm sorry. Number 1,
Please.
War Bomber. This feels like another horse that probably shouldn't be 20-1. I get this horse faded badly last time out. This horse should absolutely be the speed on the inside rail.
He's going from the rail.
Going to go.
Yep.
Exactly. And this horse has nice efforts going back in his form. It doesn't really, I mean, second in a grade 2, third in a grade 3.
Let's just say he needed the race
3
last year in his first start in 6 or 7 months.
Exactly. And so the running line in the Eclipse made all the sense in the world to me, which is like the horse is coming back from 6 months, probably needed one off the bench. Now you have a little bit more conditioning.
I mean, toss the Woodbine mile, right? Going a mile on the turf, which isn't relevant to what we're talking about here.
Right.
And now look at how good that form starts to really look. Like last year, he was in this race, but it was his first start of the year. Right. So he was a little short there, but then he showed improvement in his second start, and it was his third start when he put it all together. And look what ended up happening. He won the Seagram at 18-1, similar to what may be able to happen in a spot like this. Right. He's not going to be the most consistent horse, but he can jump up and win, and he's not far off competing with this group. Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned him in here. War Bomber. And I wouldn't be able to get out of this race if we didn't say, no one stinks like Gaston. No one stinks like Gaston. No one. I love me Gaston. He's one of the greatest. Gaston is fantastic. One of the greatest heel characters. Love Gaston, the Disney villain from Beauty and the Beast. Let's finish up, Matt, with the 10th race, the final of the 5 graded stakes races. These are really good races to handicap and to dive into. If you hadn't taken a look, I'm sure if you're listening or watching this, you probably have taken a look now or going to decide to. We finish things up with Moira, 2023 Canadian Horse of the Year. Now, what's pretty cool about her, and I mean, I didn't even think about this, but she wins last year the Woodbine Oaks, and then she wins the Queen's Plate in dominant fashion. And then following that, she tries the turf for the first time against Older in the EP Taylor. And she gets DQ'd out of that race, even though she runs an incredibly impressive race.
Yeah.
She ends up getting DQ'd. She finished second, like up the inside. After that, they take a shot in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf.
Yeah.
What was crazy to me is that in her second turf start of her career, she's in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf.
Yeah.
And she finishes 5th. And the only horses that beat her in that race were the first, second, and 4th choice, and then one other long shot.
Yeah.
Like, she was that good in her second career turf start to where only a couple of the best turf horses out there could beat her, even when she probably wasn't at her best yet on the turf, right? She was just making her second start. Now, all that being said, she didn't win her last time out, and it was as a heavy favorite. It was her first start of the year. It was on the synthetic. But, man, like, overall, she's going to be heavily bet. She's a really fun horse. She's a cool story. And this should be the spot where she bounces back and runs better. And if you're just looking at, the races visually, that turf race in the EP Taylor, she looked fantastic, and she kept company with the top-notch horses in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf on the turf. So let's just start talking about Moira here. She's the 2-1 morning line favorite in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think you outlined her career perfectly. I mean, she was obviously super impressive, kind of the belle of the ball up there last year in winning the Queen's Plate in such dominant fashion. And yeah, that EP Taylor, that was a bizarre race because I remember Rougier winning that was like that horse was like stopped and cut off and
Yep.
then like I mean, almost completely stopped and then somehow managed to like re-break and or no, it wasn't even re-breaking, but like get going again and win that race. That was just a bizarre race, and she was kind of all over the place coming down the stretch, and so then she gets DQ'd. But I mean, a huge effort there, and then yeah, I mean, you lose to Tuesday in Italian and Lady Spear. That's not really bad. Like, you know, in your second career effort on the turf. So, and she's been working out dynamite. I mean, she just fired off a 47 flat 4 furlong bullet last time out. So she's clearly feeling herself and she's feeling well. And I think you can excuse the one off the bench. And, you know, but she is going to be a huge, you know, a horse that's going to be bet down significantly.
Oh yeah.
Because
And I mean, like on
everybody loves
speed
her for
figures and
Woodbine.
stuff, she
Yeah.
does. Like her grass races are a little chunk better, but she will be probably bet down more than that, and that's going to be
Yes.
reflected. Like if you can beat her in any way, shape, or form, not sure if we can, but one that intrigues me, Matt, and will definitely be on a pick 4 or 5 ticket of mine will be the 2 Millie Girl.
Okay. Yeah.
Millie Girl, just going through her career overall, she just hasn't done much wrong. Right. Her first couple starts at Woodbine on the turf, she wins. Then she tries longer on the synthetic. She finishes third. She runs second. Then she's sent to the bench. She shows back up as a 5-year-old. Her first start of the year, she wins. And then we can watch her most recent start, which was going 6.5 in the Royal North, which is a grade 2. Kind of sets up some horses who want to stretch out for this race. And it's kind of an in-between point because then other horses can cut back and go in different stakes. She's the number 4 in here. The number 6, Sweet Enough, is also in this race. I thought Millie Girl ran pretty well. She's an okay start. She's sort of down on the inside. She's in like the 5th, 6th spot. But Matt, how many times when we watch horses that get this trip, we know it's going to happen, right? You're just going to run into some traffic. You just know you're just going to run into some traffic, and she's going to get shuffled back pretty bad right here where she wants to go. And she just gets stopped right here badly. You could see she's losing her positioning. She loses about 2 lengths of positioning, and they're going to try to kind of back out and angle around because that's really their only chance. When you're behind, like you were saying, the second flight, when you're in like the 4th flight of horses, you're just keeping your fingers crossed, right? She's moving around now. She's trying to find some room. She's shifting. Now she's kind of going in between horses, and she's got some really good late energy. I thought this was a very nice effort from her. She's going to lose to horses that just got, the jump on her in this race. She runs well, and now she'll get a little bit more ground to deal with, get back to a mile where she has performed pretty well. She's not far off the 6 in here. Sweet Enough, who's right in front of her. Both of them are making their first start back off a little bit of a break. And no real knocks on the 6 either, Matt, who's faced pretty good company down at Gulfstream Park. This is a horse or the 7, excuse me.
The 7, I know.
Who's behind Market Segmentation, Faith in Humanity. Both of those races were basically paceless races where there was not any passing. Queen Goddess, in the Pegasus, Filly and Mare World Cup. So her form isn't bad at all.
No, I liked her quite a bit. I mean, so she was in my top 3. She was my 3rd choice here. Emma Jane Wilson up on the mount. So, I like this one a lot. The horse that I will inevitably continue to go after, and I don't love the morning line price, but I think you might actually end up getting a better price than what you're seeing on the morning line because of the effect that Moira has, is the number 3 Scottish Star.
Yeah.
One of these days, this horse is going to get it home for me. And when it does, it's going to be a glorious moment.
She's really fast, man.
Super honest. She's so fast, and she's really honest. And even after she gets headed, she doesn't give up.
She tries to battle back.
She tries really hard, and maybe she can get to the lead. I mean, I actually think a 1-turn mile on the turf might be good for her. I just think that I just think that setup, which is very distinct to Woodbine, of a 1-turn turf mile, might actually just be the right sort of trip to be able to get up on the lead. You have that big sweeping turn where she's going to be able to maintain that lead. And a lot of horses don't make a move around that turn yet. And then she's going to be able to, kick for home. I 3-1 might be a little short of a price for me to use her. But like I said, I have a feeling by post time she might float up 7-2, 4-1, just because Moira, I have a feeling, is going to get hammered down to like even money in all likelihood in this race.
Yeah, she's tough to dismiss completely, because if anybody can just steal this race, it's probably Scottish Star, who is very, very quick.
And at the very least, she should be included in like all your vertical exotics, because she doesn't give up. So she's going to finish in the top 2 or 3 at worst.
Could be a very nice day for Raylu, who has some extremely live mounts up there. We've mentioned his name a few times. Other horses that just going to fit well in this race and wouldn't shock me to see them run well. Fev Rover, who was in that EP Taylor that we talked about, was involved in some of that trouble and was right there with Moira and with Rougier. And she should be forwardly placed a little bit, but this might be a prep for her. She's run well enough here. But I think she's wants a little longer now. So I think they might be trying this just to get it under her and then stretch her out in a better spot. I didn't know what to do with the 9.
Oh, I was going to say about the 8. I'll just go back to that really quick. Cassie's only like 11% off that long of a layoff. And it's noteworthy because you brought up his stats second off the layoff.
Second off the bench.
Second is where you want to bet his horses. And that was my concern. Listen, she's got great form if she can run back to it, but first time off the bench, a little worried. But you were saying about Eminent Victor here in the 9.
Yeah, she was sort of, kind of an enigma to me. I'm probably cold on her. You were kind of mentioning when Brown goes to different spots. I mean, she went over to Pimlico. She had a little bit of trouble last time out, but the races last year, she looked like she was really starting to progress. And then it wasn't like she faced better company either. She just sort of kind of plateaued maybe right around the Lake George. And, I didn't really have many excuses for her. Off connections alone, she wouldn't shock, but I like others more than her in here.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, the Lake Placid, Haughty with the Moonlight. I mean, Dulce Zell. Okay, I mean, those are nice horses, but I mean, the only thing you could say is she did have some cut in the grass. Maybe she likes a really firm surface, because you look at that October 15th race and it's good turf going a mile and an 8.
Maybe you toss the yielding in the good, and then she had a little bit of trouble last time out, and maybe needed the race.
First off the long layoff, and now you're getting the horse, getting Lasix for the second time, getting back on Lasix. But
if she's at least
I don't
this
know.
price, then I could like what you're doing. I could talk myself into her if she is around 8-1, right?
Sure.
I don't want to take any shorter than that on her, but if she's in that range, I can make some excuses for some of those races like you did, and make
at a price I can always make excuses.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're doing. And that's what's nice about these daily racing form past performances. When you dive on in, you can take a look at the charts, the race replays, the pedigree information, the trainer statistics, like we have mentioned. Fun weekend coming up at Woodbine, 11 races, 5 graded stakes races. It is Canada Day and a huge one. One more time, you can go to woodbine.com for anything you need. That $100,000 is guaranteed in the early pick 5, post time 1:10 p.m. Eastern time. 5 graded stakes races and big fields. Maddie, what's up for you this weekend? What are you going to be doing with Trust the Profits, or any win play shows, capping the cards? Give us the plugs.
I got Capping the Card coming out on Friday morning. I need to get my days straight here, but Friday morning, that's going to be coming out for Ellis Park. So I'm going to be covering the 11 races there, including obviously the grade 1 Stephen Foster. That's going to be my primary thing. And then obviously, listen, if you're up in Canada and you're a fan of Canadian racing, make sure to come back and check out our Monday night live streams on Trust the Profits, where we do all 7 races at Assiniboia, and also get you ready for the stable duel contests up there. And I also have a specific Capping the Card for Assiniboia Mondays as well. So you can find all that stuff if you just follow me on Twitter at Failed to Menace.
What's cool is on Mondays, if you want to kick back and just have something fun to do while you're at home, having a drink on a Monday night and eating your dinner, Matt goes over a lot of the card and then hangs out throughout the card. At DRF, you can get free PPs again all throughout the month of July if you purchase any other Monday track. So if you just purchase one other track, then you can get free Assiniboia PPs every Monday.
Love
So
it.
you'll get free PPs. You get a bunch of help from Matt and other guests. I'm going to pop in there a lot with Matt moving forward on some Mondays. And yeah, it's a ton of fun. They have low takeout in the win pools, 14.65%, which is some of the lowest that you'll find. They have stable dual games if you're a fan of contest every single week and every day that they're racing. It's a good product and it's a lot of fun. And Matt knows it really, really well. So make sure to follow him. And Matty, thank you so much, buddy. Like always, anytime I ask for help, you come a running, and I really appreciate it. And I'm glad we had some good races to dive into too. I didn't have to twist your arm a whole lot. We had some good fields and some quality racing.
Absolutely. No, this is a lot of fun, Gino. I always appreciate you having me on.
Okay, folks, make sure to give Matt a follow. If you're watching on social media, thanks so much for hanging out with us. If you're listening on the podcast, there will be a lot more coming. Don't go anywhere.